Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, Earthlings, wherever you may be on planet Earth. I found a use for the curtain. Recognise that, anybody? The Chinos shops here are amazing. They sell curtains, all hundreds of different types of curtains, and they're super, super long. So then all you have to do is, I'll just move this one out of the way, is cut it to the length that you want. So that will be another job on my to-do list. And they're about anything from 8 to 15 euros a curtain. So there's a lot of curtains in this room because it's got a lot of windows. I was going to talk today about why I find Meghan so fascinating and interesting to study. And it's not a hate account thing at all, or a hateful situation. But before I do, we're really big skit rats, and we found this chair by the bins. It had been there for about 3 weeks, and none of the other neighbours wanted to take it. We all collect stuff from the rubbish, everybody in the neighbourhood, or if we want to throw something out, we put it by the bins and someone retrieves it. Now, this particular chair looked so terrible, nobody would touch it, but I really liked the shape, and so we took it and we cleaned it up, and I'm quite impressed with it, actually. There, what do you make of that? It's not perfect, but I quite like that. It's always had a little nick there, and one of the legs was loose. That was all. I've got to fix the legs up a bit better. But and then it's got all this stud work at the back. I think it's a thing. I think it's some sort of designer thing. Anyway, so that was completely free. Why is Meghan so fascinating? Why the parody yesterday that's just my interpretation of her. That's how I see her. I see her as actually quite a ludicrous kind of girl. She's becoming more and more ludicrous as time goes by. Now, initially, when I first heard that Harry was engaged, I thought, fabulous. Finally, the guy's got a girl. And when I saw her, I thought, double fabulous. She's Californian, she's a divorcee. I didn't realise that she was mixed race, actually. I think I've got darker skin than she has, and I don't use fake tan. I just thought, he likes to have a laugh, and this girl, hopefully, will have a laugh with him. I can imagine them at royal events. They'll be giggling in the background. They'll be having so much fun together. And they'll become sort of the naughty royals, and everyone will just love hearing what they're up to. And then I saw the engagement interview, and my red flags just went up, and I didn't really understand why. There were the two things that stood out to me. I mean, when they said to her, "Have you ever heard of Prince Harry before?" and she said no, I thought, I'm going to give her that one, because what is any girl who's going to marry either of those two boys supposed to say, really? I'm marrying him because he's a prince. Come on. So I thought I'll cut her some slack on that one. But the one that really stuck in my mind was, I only had one question before I met him. Is he nice? Because if he's not nice, well, that just wouldn't make sense to me. And I found that not only a bizarre, quite rude, arrogant, and I just didn't believe it. I didn't believe it at all. Because I've been on blind dates. We've all been on blind dates. Is that our first question? Is he nice? Usually it's like, what does he look like? Well, she'd have to ask that question if she'd never met Harry and didn't know anything about Harry, wouldn't she? What does he look like? What's he interested in? That would be another question you'd ask, or she, if you're going on a blind date. What are their interests? What are they like? Because I might not have anything in common with them. I would never think to myself, is he or she nice? Because if they're not nice, then it just wouldn't make sense for me. So I had all these sort of red flags going off. Graham and my daughter were super excited. They watched the engagement interview. Graham said, I think she's lovely because she's pretty. So in Graham's book, if you're pretty, then you're automatically nice. Simple male brain there. Not that all males are like that, but my male has a very simple, basic male brain. And I said to him, there's more to it than that, Graham. It's not just, is someone pretty, is someone good looking? There's a lot more to it. And he couldn't see it at all. He couldn't understand. He said, I think you're being very harsh on her. And my daughter said the same. Within about 6 months, Graham was like, okay, I'm on it now. And my daughter, it took about a year. My son wasn't interested at all. He was just into gaming. He was just like, so what? Harry's getting married. I couldn't care less. We did all watch the wedding live in the Dolphin office on the day, in between trips, of course. And I just thought that it was lovely the way the light shone through St George's Chapel, and it really picked up like the pretty greens and pinks of the stained glass on her dress. I thought that was lovely. That was my focus. The Queen Mary's diamond bandeau, that was my focus. I didn't really notice that the members of the royal family were looking so disapproving. I had read some of the stories about the Queen having to pull her to one side, saying, you know, Meghan, in this family, we don't talk to people like that. Now, I then became very, very interested in narcissism, which I'd never really understood exactly what narcissism is. I knew of the word, I know the story of Narcissus. But I just thought it's someone who's incredibly vain. I didn't understand that it is a mental condition. And so I started watching Dr. Ramani, and I found her fascinating, because, as I've mentioned on more than one occasion, Graham and I and Samantha and Ben and all of us at Dolphin Safari have had two narcissistic psychopaths in our lives that have caused untold damage. And we never really understood what their problem was. They would copy us a lot, which I know a lot of people say is the biggest form of flattery. Well, yes, it is, but they do it in kind of a weird way. And it's the subtleties, I think, of a narcissist. It's a very subtle thing. Unless someone else has had one in their lives, then they would identify it straight away. Or if they had knowledge of the subject, they would identify it. But to people who are completely innocent, naive, and have never encountered this, when you say, I don't like her or I don't like him because I'm sensing red flags, a lot of people can be like, I don't get it. What's wrong with them? I mean, they're just so nice and so charming. In fact, our two narcissists, one is a man and one is a woman, and I'm not going to identify them because they're still in our lives. They've been behaving a lot better lately because we finally learned through Meghan and Dr. Ramani and other great YouTubers that study the subject, we finally began to get a handle on what the hell we were dealing with. Now, this is coming from someone like me. With my mother's political career, we got a lot of heat as a family. With me and Graham leaving the country, me being Britain's most wanted, that was a lot of heat. I have also worked in sales industries that are incredibly competitive and can get pretty bitchy. I've hung around with females in like beauty industry. I've never been a model or anything like that. I'm sure you don't find that hard to believe. But I've mixed with people like that. I've seen bitchiness. Graham's had heat. He's been in prison for a lengthy time, several years, that it can get very heated in prison. With all of our combined life experience, we had never, ever either encountered or identified the problem of narcissists, let alone psychopathic narcissists, which is what our two are. And so we were absolutely floored when we first met them. We were floored. We didn't know what to make of it. We'd never come across it before. I can give you one example. We were on our boat and the narcissistic psychopaths were hosting a party on a boat opposite us, a barbecue. All sounds totally harmless. They had a load of friends. We knew they didn't like us. We didn't go anywhere near. They deliberately framed the situation to allure our two small children to go and join in so that they would then have the opportunity to complain. But our kids were really well behaved, and we both said to them, don't go anywhere near them. Don't go near them. Don't be tempted. Stay away. And they were very good, and they did. But some of the guests at the party realised what they were doing. They knew them quite well. And so they thought they were being incredibly rude, incredibly mean, and by not inviting us over or offering us a beer. I mean, we didn't want to get involved. So about 3 or 4 of them came over with a beer each and said, hey, Fiona, Graham, you want a beer? Let's have a laugh. And one thing led to another. They were quite tiddly, and they started jumping off the bow of our boat and swimming and having fun. well, we could see straight away that the looks on the faces of the narcissistic psychopaths, they were livid. Livid. They saw it as utter betrayal that these 4 or 5 men had dared to come onto our boat to offer us beers and then have a laugh. Well, they destroyed the lives of each and every one of those men. One of them, he had to leave Gibraltar. They absolutely destroyed him just because he came and offered us a beer. And that particular man, actually, like a few months later, a guy at the sports centre just kicked a football into the water by mistake, and he called across to us and said, "Can you get my ball?" Well, I think I was inside the boat. Graham was inside the boat. But this man, who was a friend of ours, I think I mentioned it before, he's called Jacko, because his real name is Michael Jackson. He said, "Yeah, sure," and he climbed on a boat to reach the ball. The boat he climbed on happened to belong to the narcissistic psychopaths. Well, the culmination of it was they phoned the police and accused this man of attempted murder. I'm not making this up. We've actually got this on video. Because when Graham and I saw the narcissist's reaction to the fact the guy just stepped on it, and it was an unoccupied, sort of abandoned boat. He just stepped on it to rescue the guy's ball. When the guy came round to get his ball, he couldn't believe that there were a ton of police officers, there were allegations of attempted murder. I said to Graham, "Get the camcorder, I've never seen anything like this before." And Graham got the camcorder, and we filmed the whole thing of the guy on the phone going, "Yes, I could meet an officer in the car park. Yes, he threatened to kill me. He threatened to murder me. He threatened to murder, death, kill me." I mean, we were both, my God, I've never seen anything like this in my life. I had never, ever, ever encountered anything like it. Now, because we videoed him, that made us number one target, which we didn't realise at the time. These kind of people are just best avoided. I mean, I always thought psychopaths were like axe-wielding murderers. No. Quite a lot of psychopaths don't even break the law. No, well, they don't have a criminal record because they're very snidey, backstabby, or they know exactly how to, they've got it down to a fine art. So I studied Megan through this, and the more I watch her, the more I see of this. Now, with narcissists like that, you can't successfully take them to court. You can't successfully ever get them arrested. They always have a way out of it. Always. They seal off any opportunity that you have to deal with it in a normal and practical way, the way that we would all deal with each other in society. So really, what ends up happening is people laugh at them. I mean, our 2 psychopaths are the laughing stock. They don't realise it. I mean, people are scared of them. People sort of go, "Hello, good morning," and as soon as they pass, they're like, and they have no idea. They haven't got a clue. Like Megan, she's clueless. Well, she might not be if she saw my parody yesterday, and I think she probably will get to see it at some point. But then she'll say, "I'm victimising her. I'm a racist." She will either see it, that I don't like her because I think I see very nasty traits in her character, but she won't frame it that way any more than our 2 psychopaths will. But she is becoming more and more and more bizarre. Now, I dread to think if our 2 psychopaths had access to the money she has, that Harry is enabling her. He's doing the worst thing possible. If he really loved her, he would nip it in the bud and say, "You're not having any more money. That's it, it's finished. It's finished, Megan. You've got to calm down, you've got to get some help." He's enabling her by giving her an open checkbook and allowing her to do these ridiculous PR stunts. And they're all designed, make no mistake, they are all designed to get Hollywood's attention so she'll get a part. I'm convinced that's why she did Oprah. That was the performance of her lifetime. And it's never going to work. Hollywood's not stupid. I read an absolutely fascinating blog. I can't remember which forum it was on. It was years ago. About a woman who was writing it. She'd noticed Megan was a bit woohoo. And she said that she had accidentally ended up having a career in Hollywood as an assistant producer. So she'd written this blog to tell people, aspiring actors and actresses, how to really get in with Hollywood. And she said, if you want to be anybody, be nice to everyone. Having manners is very important in Hollywood. There's a lot of brats, there's a lot of narcissism, but she said working with the A-listers, an awful lot of them, and directors and producers and people like Spielberg, she said they have manners, they have courtesy, they care about people's feelings, and so they're pretty quick to identify wankers, as we would call it in the UK. And those are qualities Meghan just doesn't possess. She doesn't seem to have any manners, or, well, certainly no talent. You know, she'd have to be super talented to get away with it. I know there are some obnoxious celebrities, but they do have talent. They're entertaining, they're successful, and they're bankrollable. She's none of those things. And it's very similar with our narcissists. They don't have her money or her resources. Good God, if they did, they'd be a million times worse than her. Believe me, they would. One of them is the original narcissist, and the other one adopted the traits and became that way from being involved. And that's like Harry and Meghan. Meghan is the ultimate. Harry is becoming more like her the longer he remains with her. Now, one of them got quite ill, and that calmed a lot of stuff down. So, because their tricks and stuff, they only work as long as things are going well in their own lives. They're very much people who love to kick people when they're down, but when they themselves are down, then they hide in a little shell. So it's a fascinating subject, and Meghan has actually really helped in a way, and she doesn't even realise that she has helped highlight the problem of narcissism and narcissists. Isn't that fascinating? She has actually done a lot of good, a lot more good than she intended. I don't know, what do you guys think? I know a lot of you have told stories in the comments of having had narcissists in your life. Do you think she's helped educate the world on... I mean, she's the queen of narcissists, really. She's the poster girl, isn't she, of narcissism and spoilt bratism. And, I mean, it's like the Daily Mail. They couldn't even win in court. She got away with perjury, in my opinion, by saying she misremembered. I mean, that's ludicrous. Personally, I think the Daily Mail, I think the courts were against the Daily Mail from the start. I think the judges hate the Daily Mail. The Daily Mail did a headline calling some of the judges saboteurs a few years ago, and I think the judiciary have long memories. And unfortunately, I think they let that colour their judgment, again, in my opinion, which they shouldn't have done, because it made a mockery of justice, that they just let her off the hook with that one. And that happens a lot with our two narcissistic psychopaths. It is a fascinating subject. I'd love to hear what all of you think about it. See you below.